Hello students, welcome to our English class. In this video, I am going to briefly describe about the concept of communication, its process and various types of communication that we use in our day-to-day life. So let's get started. The word communication is very much familiar to us. So what is communication? And from where the word communication is originated? Hope we all know that communication is the foundation of human interaction. Without communication, it's quite challenging to survive. The word communication is originated from the Latin word communis, which means to share. We used to share our ideas, thoughts, feelings, and emotions and information to one another. That is called a communication. We can say that communication is an act of transforming information from one to another. It includes conveying messages, ideas, thoughts to others, a sharing of our feelings and emotions, and the exchange of our knowledge or even our experience. Hence, we can say that communication is the process of sharing information and understanding the same from one person to another through various means. That includes both a verbal and non-verbal communication. When we talk about the process of communication, we can say that communication is the process that involves a sender who sends the information through some medium, and the receiver receives the information and provides appropriate feedback or response. So the process continues like that. Hence we can say that it's a process. While communicating, we used to direct face-to-face interaction or other means like letters, telephones, mobile phones, computers, email, and other media like mass media and social media. For example, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Nowadays we are using WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter and other social medias to make our communication very easier. So these are all some of the means or ways of communication based on channels, purpose, organizational structure, based on direction and based on relationship, etc. So let's see one by one. So based on the channel, it is classified into two types: sign languages, body language, that play a significant role in the life of people with some physical impact. Based on the channel, we can classify communication into one-way communication and two-way communication. The one-way communication is like a monologue. Information flows from sender to receiver. For example, communication passed through a radio. In contrast, two-way communication involves a dynamic exchange with feedback and interaction among the people. It is a crucial element in fostering understanding and collaboration. Also, we can classify communication into face-to-face communication and distance or online communication. This you know very well. Nowadays we are using both online communication familiar. So let me move on to the next slide. Based on the style or organizational structure, it is classified into formal or non-formal communication. Here is the classification. So in the form of formal communication is deliberately structured one. For example, official meetings in educational institutions or business sectors, etc. Whereas informal communication is spontaneous and unstructured. For example, communication with our family members, relatives, neighbors, friends, and etc. These are all the unstructured in the form. Right. The nature of formal communication is always well planned, systematic, and authorized, whereas informal communication is unplanned, systematic, and unauthorized one. The flow of formal communication is prescribed through a chain of command, whereas informal communication is unofficial channels, not prescribed one. The formal communication is little bit rigid, whereas informal communication is very much flexible. The purpose of formal communication is to achieve some objectives, whereas informal communication is to satisfy some personal needs of an individual. The form of formal communication is either oral or written format, whereas informal communication usually oral in the form. The formal communication can be traced using minutes of the meeting and reports, whereas the informal communication cannot be traced easily. Right? The next one is communication focuses on one-on-one interactions. At least two individuals involved in interpersonal communication. That is interpersonal communication. Whereas in intrapersonal communication, this refers to something that occurs within oneself. For example, a daydreaming, or planning ourselves, or speaking within ourselves is called intrapersonal communication. Then the next one is transpersonal communication. Do you have any idea about a transpersonal communication? Okay, now let me explore the fascinating concept of a transpersonal communication. It goes beyond the individual self, involving a deeper connection with others and the environment. It's about shared experiences and understanding beyond personal boundaries. It takes place within a person's spiritual domain. The purpose of this transpersonal communication is always a self-realization. The purpose of transpersonal communication is to realize a selfhood, enhance spirituality, and answer questions that are spiritual in nature. Then the extrapersonal communication refers to the communication between human and non-human entities. For example, we used to speak with our pet animals like dogs, cats, and even sometimes with our priests or other things. This is the kind of communication. Like that, even the pet animals communicate with us. So this type of communication is called extrapersonal communication. And then next one, let us see about the communication based on the direction. Based on the direction, we can classify communication into a vertical communication and horizontal communication. The vertical communication includes both upward and downward communication. See, upward communication is always transferred from a lower level to higher level. For example, communication or grievances from student to teachers or student to principal, or even employees to the employer is the kind of example for upward communication. It is non-authoritative in nature and it is usually in the form of a request, whereas in downward communication, information is passed from higher level to lower level. For example, the communication or orders from principal to faculty members or principal to students, or even an employer to the employees. It is usually directive in nature as well authoritative in nature. Circulars and orders from superiors to subordinates is the right example to downward communication. The next one is horizontal communication. It is also called as lateral communication. For example, communication between a peer group or between employees or individuals with equal status, like marketing manager to finance manager and finance manager to operation managers, etc. This type of communication is called horizontal communication or a lateral communication. Okay, fine. The next major part is a non-verbal communication. Let me brief it, right? As I said earlier, the non-verbal communication involves sign languages, facial expressions, gestures, postures, symbols, eye contact, and body language, etc., that play a significant role in the life of people with some physical impairment. Sign language plays a significant role in communication process among people with different learning and speech impairment. Especially, this is very much useful for hearing and speech impaired. Similarly, facial expressions. So different facial expressions are noted in this slide. See, that is anger, disgust, fear, joy, sadness, and surprise. These are all some of the basic expressions that we can easily find out from someone's face. Then eye contact. Eye is a direct and most expressive part of our body. So different ways of eye contact are mentioned here. First thing, see the direct eye contact. If people have a direct contact, that shows their confidence. If they are looking downwards, if the students, for example, if the students are looking downwards, either they may listen carefully, or they may have disinterest in the class, or they may feel so guilty for some other reasons. So single raised eyebrow, that denotes doubting. Both raised eyebrows, you may admire something. When you admire something, your eyebrows, both your eyebrows raised up. Like that, bent eyebrows, that shows sudden focus. Then tears, when the tears comes out, it may due to some emotional reasons, either happy or hurt. Like that. Gestures, here I have mentioned some gestures. So this type of gestures communicate with us, right? Similarly, some road signals and some symbols that communicates with us, and even a touch and a simple hug that communicates among the people. So we will discuss about the non-verbal communication in detail in the next class. Dear students, I hope you have understood the process and different types of communication. If you have any doubts, we may discuss in our class. Thank you.